Following on from the last pod, I want to be more specific now by using the work of the sociologist Manuel Castells, who's on your reading list and who we'll be revisiting in class. So towards the end of his trilogy, The Information Age, Castells describes a future politics he labels as cultural politics. So what he calls cultural politics is this idea of power in the hands of everyday people. He labels it as such in order to describe a politics he argues will be based on information technology and enacted in the media sphere. So given the increasing role that network digital media is playing in culture and politics, it makes sense to first look at how the internet has and is impacting upon traditional knowledge making, as well as encouraging counter-publics. First, let me take you back to 1998 just for a minute, when the website of Matt Drudge, an online reporter who started out writing about celebrity gossip and doing movie reviews, was the first to reveal Monica Lewinsky's affair with US President Bill Clinton. Drudge learned that Newsweek, a respected publication, had held back from publishing an account of President Clinton's affair with a White House intern called Monica Lewinsky. Drudge got confirmation of the story from a New York literary agent, wrote a report and published it on his site. It went, as they now say, viral. While the fact that big stories are sometimes broken by unknowns is not incredible in itself, the subsequent mainstream media attention is a powerful example of how independent media can leverage themselves into the cracks in the mainstream. While the Bill and Monica story would no doubt have surfaced anyway, the scoop became a point of definition in American journalism, says media studies academic Ian Hargraves, when it, quote, precipitated a scramble for angles on the same story by established newspaper and TV reporters, in which corners were cut, mistakes were made, and rumour was paraded as fact. When the official investigation into the Lewinsky affair was published, it was the first such official report to be made instantly available online, and it caused news sites around the world to freeze under the burden of traffic. Now, according to polls at the time, the news media's behaviour inflamed public opinion not against the president, but against the news media itself. President Clinton survived impeachment. 6 months later, Drudge was a guest of the National Press Club in Washington. During his speech, he said, "The net gives as much voice to a computer geek like me as to a CEO or Speaker of the House. We all become equal." So online journalism, one could argue, has placed the power to shake those in power in the hands of individuals or small groups, which could be a possible antidote to media concentration, the hegemony of business values, and the complacency into which all professional groups fall from time to time. And of course now, well over a decade later, we can all be content providers. The downside is the way such power has been abused. Trolling would be one solid example, and this is something that can be discussed further in class for those who are interested. According to US media studies academic Roger Streetmatter, technological development is continuing to reshape all forms of communication to a degree comparable to the Gutenberg press, that is Gutenberg's 15th century invention of printing from movable type. So technological development reduces cost, it bypasses information monopoly, therefore offering alternatives to conglomerates. Through hyperlinks, it allows readers to be informed of the most recent event, as well as be reminded of the issue's overall statement and goals and past accomplishments. And it also allows individuals in far-flung places to come together and build a sense of community, all of which, Hargraves argues, lead to a true grassroots movement. So the potential for amateurs to influence public discourse has taken a quantum leap with the proliferation of blogs in the 21st century and of course all the other social media vehicles. Many theorists agree we're living in a time in which fundamental changes in the social order mean that dominant institutions, government and big business, are having to reassess their place in a society in which ordinary people are increasingly able to access and produce alternative sources of information and forms of communication. Now, Castells acknowledges and emphasises the importance of social movements. He argues that they're a sign of new forms of political agitation. However, he argues that such changes and features of the current information age, when combined, announce a crisis of democracy, with traditional parties being undercut by global trends, identity politics, and a general public suspicious of all politicians. He argues that campaigners in new political movements, as well as traditional ones, must possess the following abilities: excellent communication, analytical and information processing skills. So producers and activists now must be, in Castell's words, symbol mobilisers. That means able to adopt a networking, decentered form of organisation and intervention. While Castells agrees that mainstream politics must appeal to people who may not respond to party solidarity, but are more open to notions, for instance, of global citizenship, freedom of speech and saving the environment, he doesn't seem to believe that alternative public spheres can exist happily alongside traditional public sphere processes. I'm not so sure about that, and it might be something for you to think about before class. Castells asks, how has the relationship between power, the media and politics changed in the context of globalisation and the emergence of media technologies? What opportunities do these technologies provide for ordinary people to set their political agenda? Castells argues that politics and power relations has historically involved a battle over values and ideas that are then played out in the media. So the rise of new mass self-communication via new technologies provides opportunities for non-institutional forms of social movements to gain influence. Corporate media and mainstream politics recognise the power of this influence, leading to a convergence between traditional and mass self-communication. So Castells argues that the battle for power will, in future, be played out in non-traditional and dynamic forms. So a key concept here is counterpower. Tim Gee argues, quote, "In the hands of the few, power can be called oppression, repression, exploitation or authoritarianism. Meanwhile, movements for freedom, emancipation, liberation, human rights and democracy have a common idea at their heart. That idea is counterpower." Castells looks at contemporary social movements from the Arab uprisings to the Occupy Wall Street movement and points out that while they differ in important ways, the one thing they share in common is that they're all interwoven with autonomous communication networks supported by wireless communication. So while Castells isn't focused so much on the writing or content of communication, he's examining the social, cultural and political roots of these social movements, their innovative forms of self-organisation, the precise role of technology, and he considers their capacity to induce political change by influencing people's minds. So with this in mind, please attempt to read or reread the set reading and think about what Castells means by communication power. I hope this overview has helped with your reading, and I'll leave you with the following questions. Can we, as ordinary individuals, harness counterpower, and do we even want to? I'll see you soon.